The death of the third head of state of Tanzania, the late Benjamin Mkapa. Now, this is Bottomline Africa, a show that takes you around the continent in just 60 minutes. And we have so much lined up for you on this broadcast. But first, the highlights. All flags are flying at half-mast across Tanzania as the country begins 7 days of mourning for the former President Benjamin Mkapa, who died on Thursday night. 5 West African leaders end a long-day summit in Mali without a deal to soothe the country's escalating political crisis after meeting Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and leaders of a protest movement clamoring for his resignation. A funeral parlor in South Africa's township of Soweto reaches full capacity as daily COVID-19 deaths surge, while the African infection rates edge closer to 800,000. And users of narcotic cat leaf, popularly known as miraa, in Somalia suffering withdrawal symptoms after Somalia banned international flights to curb the spread of the new COVID-19, in turn hitting imports. Welcome to the program. My name is Grace Kuria. Now, Tanzanians are mourning following the death of former President Benjamin William Mkapa. Now, while relaying the news on Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation, President John Pombe Magufuli said Mkapa died at a Dar es Salaam hospital where he was admitted. Magufuli also declared a 7-day mourning period. During this time, all flags in the country will be flown at half-mast. Mkapa, who died at the age of 81, was Tanzania's third president, having led the country from 1995 to 2005 before handing over to Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete.
Ndugu zangu wa Tanzania, habari za jioni na habari za usiku. Usiku wa kuamkia leo, kwa sababu sasa ni saa 6 karibu na dakika 25, tumepata kwa masikitiko makubwa, tumepata msiba mkubwa. Mzee wetu, mzee Benjamin William Mkapa, rais wa awamu ya 3, amefariki. Amefariki kwenye hospitali Dar es Salaam ambako alikuwa amelazwa. Ni waombe wa Tanzania tulipokee hili, na tumepata msiba mkubwa, na tuendelee kumwombea mzee wetu Rais mstaafu Benjamin William Mkapa, ambaye ametangulia mbele ya haki. Taarifa zingine zitaendelea kutolewa, lakini mzee Mkapa hatunaye tena. Asanteni sana.
Tanzanians have been reacting to the death of the former President Benjamin Mkapa, who led the country for 10 years following its first multi-party elections in 1995. They remember him as a man who introduced key economic reforms that saw the country transition to a liberal economy. Listen in.
Kwa kweli tunasikitika kifo chake, sababu mzee wetu Mzee William Benjamin Mkapa mengi ametufanyia mazuri na ametufanyia vitu vizuri, na mambo yote mengi ameyafanya. Ametujengea uwanja wa taifa ambao unaitwa sasa hivi ni Mkapa. Kwa leo hii kusikia kifo chake tunasikitika sana wa Tanzania kusikia mzee wetu ametuacha.
Na hata hivyo, baada ya kupokea taarifa hizi, pia nilijaribu kupiga simu hapa na pale ili ukweli, na ukweli sikuwa na taarifa za kuhusu kuumwa kwake au kuugua kwake. Kwa hiyo nimepokea kwa masikitiko sana, na pia ni msiba wetu sote, wananchi wote. Nafikiri hili kila mmoja limemgusa.
Mzee Mkapa ninamkumbuka, alikuwa ni rais wangu wa awamu ya 3. Alifanya mambo mengi sana. Ni mzee ambaye, ni rais ambaye nilikuwa nampenda sana, na hata hotuba zake nilikuwa nazifuatilia sana.
Okay, so let's now have a conversation with Hamza Kasongo, who is a journalist who worked during President Benjamin Mkapa's era. Good afternoon, Kasongo. It's not a good afternoon from your end, but thank you for joining us on Bottomline Africa.
Thank you so much indeed, Grace.
Indeed.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed, thank you so much. So straight on to the obvious question, how it was as a journalist, how it was being a journalist during the era of the presidency of Benjamin William Mkapa?
Well, it was nice. You know, we had sort of what we really used to call love-hate relationship between the government and we, the journalists of Tanzania by that time. Because, you know, they were moving like a barometer. We were going sort of up and down. However, the working relationship in general was not so bad. The newspapers and the other media outlets were opened very widely.
Is there any personal encounter perhaps you remember and you could share with us?
Sorry?
Is there any personal encounter perhaps that you remember with the late president and you would share with us?
Well, there have been very many because Tanzania, as you know, is a very friendly country. And he himself, being a journalist who was formerly, you know, on the beat as the rest of us, we were encountering here and there, you know, at conferences and so forth and so on. And, you know, his history, as a matter of fact, in media dates back to 1966, when he was made the managing editor of what we call Uhuru Publications, the publishers of Uhuru newspapers, which is Kiswahili, and the Nationalist, which was in English, and he was the editor. And this is a party newspapers. By that time, it was TANU newspapers, now CCM. So since then, he has been in the media for long, and then from there, he went to the Daily News in 1972 after it was nationalized. As you know, we in Tanzania, like you in Kenya, had the Tanzania, the East African Standard, owned by Lonro. So when it was nationalized, it changed the name from the Standard to the Daily News. And after the first managing editor, Greenwald, I think, from South Africa, it was the late Benjamin Mkapa who took over as the managing editor. He did, I think, a thoroughly good job. And after there, then he was charged with the responsibility of establishing the first Tanzanian agency, news agency, Shihata. You know, so he has been in the media for a long time. But somehow he did not manage to avail himself to being interviewed by local citizens. This is one of major regrets that we shall now never have again.
Indeed, it's unfortunate. Talk to us about his tenure as president of Tanzania from 1995 to 2005. Again, as a journalist, what perhaps stood out for you?
Well, first, when he got in, because he was lucky or unlucky, whichever way you want to look at it, he was the first guy to sort of face the multi-partyism, multi-party elections. So the first act which they did was to have presidential debate as they do in America. And it was there, I think, when he excelled very much because he knew how to use the microphone. He, had his facts right. And all he did, was sort of, he outweighed his opponent. By that time, it was Agustino Mrema from NCCR. So he beat him very much. I think it was there that he he swayed the voters.
Indeed. Now, before we go back to 1995, let's talk about some of the achievements that he made during his tenure. For instance, when he privatized the state-owned corporations and instituted the free market policies, which actually led to a cancellation of the Tanzania foreign debts. Dr. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. No, in fact, we credit the late Benjamin Mkapa for sort of reinvigorating our economy. Because with the first president, we went very low, and then when the second president came in, he opened the doors. People with their own private cash could come and invest and put all the consumer goods into the market. And then, but by this time, still our relationship with the international organizations was still not good, but with his diplomatic experience and indeed journalism, he could go out and lure back the investors and the international organizations such as the World Bank, and we started getting loans. So we were sort of back, with the economy was back, and he instituted what he used to call, a cash budget, which was again very restrictive, and that went on. However, because the corporations which were set up by the first president, Mwalimu Nyerere, and went down, he did not feel it right to remake them. So what he decided was just to denationalize them. And that then sort of put us back, because there are certain items which he put up for nationalization, but really and truly some people think that he should not have done so, such as the National Bank of Commerce. But in general, the exercise was somehow to benefit of the country, because if I'd left them there, they will continue to rot, and which was, of course, to no benefit to anyone.
Indeed. Now that you mentioned Mwalimu Nyerere, let's go back there. Let's go back to 1995 when Mkapa was elected president, and especially because he was elected on the basis of a popular anti-corruption campaign and, of course, his strong support for the former president, Julius Nyerere. So talk to us about that and how the whole campaign was.
Because President Mkapa by that time was not as experienced as when he had been in the office for 10 years. It was through the support of Mwalimu that he came to power. And Mwalimu coined a phrase that Ben Mkapa was Mr. Clean, because journalists tried throughout, sort of everything to see if he was dented with the corruption. But they did not find anything. So when Mwalimu coined this phrase, Mr. Clean, it was indeed Mr. Clean. So that was his trump card in getting the support of Mwalimu.
Indeed. Lastly, Mr. Hamza, as we wind up, what is that one thing that you will remember Benjamin William Mkapa for?
Sorry, come again, Grace?
That one thing that you will remember Benjamin Mkapa for as we wind up.
Well, we shall remember him for many things. As some of your people have said, he built the Olympic-size national stadium, and he brought in discipline in financial management in ministries, well, then he allowed the media to expand much more than what it was before. Although, as I said before, he himself did not give interviews to the local journalists.
Indeed. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Hamza Kasongo. He is a journalist who worked during the era of the late President Benjamin William Mkapa. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Bottomline Africa.
Thank you.
Let's now move on, and still on the news of the passing on of Benjamin Mkapa. The former Tanzanian leader was instrumental in the Burundi peace process. Here is a clip first aired here on KTN News on December 9th, 2016, when President Mkapa traveled to Bujumbura to restart